Joining me now is Louisiana Congressman and House Majority Leader Steve Scalise. Leader, great to see you this morning. Thank you so much for being here.
Always great to be with you, Maria. Thanks for having me.
And I want to get your reaction to what's gone on in D.C. You're there pretty much every day when you are in session. How would you assess the Washington, D.C. crime story?
Well, it's been getting more and more out of control. You know, you've got colleagues of mine, members of Congress, who have been accosted, who have been carjacked, who have been beaten. You had one of my colleagues had one of his interns murdered on the streets of D.C. just a few weeks ago. This is going on over and over again. I mean, as you saw, they put the National Guard troops in yesterday. They've already made arrests for a lot of violent crimes, including homicide. The D.C. mayor just let this get out of control, and this is our nation's capital. This is where people come to see their government work, to see the history of our country. And you look at capitals around the world, very few have this kind of out-of-control crime, and President Trump's doing something about it. I'm glad he is.
And what will be felt on the streets with the National Guard there? I mean, what are you expecting the impact to be? We're looking at these homicide rates, and Washington, D.C. has a higher homicide rate than Havana, Cuba, than Brasilia in Brazil, Lagos, Bogota, Mexico City. All of these cities have a lower homicide rate than Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. How crazy is that?
It's embarrassing, Maria. And look, local Democrat elected officials, you see this in every major city in America. They don't care about the safety of their own people. President Trump does. He ran on safety and security. It's one of the reasons so many people crossed over and voted for Donald Trump, and he's delivering. Even if their failed local Democrat leaders won't keep them secure, President Trump will. He can obviously do it in the nation's capital. He can't do it in every city in America. I mean, they're about to elect a socialist in New York who advocates defunding the police. The public doesn't want that. Democrats don't want that. But they've got a choice to make. Are you going to elect these kind of leaders? But at least Donald Trump's doing something about it to keep people safe, Maria.
Yeah, I want to ask you about President Trump's agenda. I mean, look, the U.S. deficit is now at $291 billion in the month of July, but we've got billions and billions in tariff revenue flowing into government from President Trump's actions on trade. $28 billion collected in July, according to the Treasury, even though the deficit grew $47 billion in that time. Congressman, I want to get your reaction to what we're hearing, because the president has addressed so many issues and taken action on so many issues in just the first 200 days in office. Secretary Bessent the other day in a confirmation hearing said that they are looking to monetize the asset side of the U.S. balance sheet. After all of the success that this president has had, from the border to inflation, what do you want the priority to be once you all return to Washington in the coming weeks?
Well, Maria, continuing to getting spending under control is critical. It's something that matters to us in Congress on the Republican side, at least. It surely matters to President Trump. You know, you look at what the One Big Beautiful Bill was focused on. It was getting spending under control and putting a stable tax base in place so we can grow the economy. The only way to balance the federal budget is through a two-pronged approach. It's not through raising taxes. That's the Democrat approach, and that only increased spending and increased inflation. What you need to do is control spending in Washington and grow the economy. And in the meantime, if you look at the One Big Beautiful Bill, the biggest focus, the biggest area of growth in deficit spending, Maria, is what's called autopilot spending, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, those mandatory parts of spending. That's what we focused on, putting work requirements in Medicaid, putting work requirements in SNAP, the food stamp program. That's going to actually get people who didn't belong on those programs in the first place off so that they can get back under control and get a normalized growth rate. That helps get you back to balanced budgets.
Yeah, well, I think that's a great point. And of course, you've got a little pressure off now that the $37 trillion debt ceiling was raised to likely, what, the first quarter 2028 in the Big Beautiful Bill?
Yeah, roughly 2 years. You know, and what that does is saves, by the way, hundreds of billions of dollars, because unfortunately, these days, Democrats in the Senate, especially Chuck Schumer, if they're empowered to be able to control the negotiations on something like debt ceiling, they're going to ask a king's ransom and add hundreds of billions of spending in exchange for avoiding a debt crisis. President Trump didn't want that. Neither did we. That's why we put it in the one big beautiful bill to take that negotiation off the table so we could focus on controlling spending, getting spending under control.
Yeah.
And we also did the rescissions bill. Remember that, getting rid of the USAID, public broadcasting. Look, if you want to go watch public broadcasting, you can pay for it. You know, people that want to watch your show, and a lot of people do, they pay good advertising dollars because it's a popular show. If nobody's watching your program, there are too many options today in cable programming to have taxpayers funding to the tunes of tens of billions of dollars. We got rid of that wasteful spending, and it's just the beginning.
Yeah, well, look, you're going to have to deal with Democrats now when you come back. Obviously, lawmakers on August recess. You'll be back at the Capitol after Labor Day. You're facing a funding fight, potential government shutdown, as Republicans are looking at a potential second mega bill. But you're going to have to fund the government, and you'll need your colleagues on the left to do it. Are you expecting government shuts down at the end of September?
Well, we're doing our work so that it doesn't happen, but obviously it takes two to tango. The House has passed over 60% of all the government funding bills, and the Appropriations Committee, Tom Cole, his members are doing a great job in getting all of those bills out of committee. We finally have a Senate in John Thune who's willing to move appropriations bills. They've started to move a few. There is a negotiation going on, Maria, even during the August recess, where members are talking to each other, Republican, Democrat, House, Senate, to try to get some kind of agreement before the September 30th deadline. Will we get there? I don't know. That's going to be up to Democrats to see if Chuck Schumer and his colleagues want a government shutdown. We don't. That's why we're moving all of these appropriations bills. And when we come back in September, you know, we'll see if there's a real negotiation to be had.
Yeah, but Congressman, the Democrat Party has been hijacked by the extremists. I mean, the Democrat socialist Omar Fatah, who is running to be Minneapolis's next mayor, is showing his priorities should he be elected. Watch this.
Day one, if you were elected, what would be some of your top 2-3 priorities for the city?
Well, the first I would say would be a hostile federal government with not only Donald Trump in office, but he has essentially a trifecta. Both chambers of Congress and the Supreme Court. And a lot of our neighbors, especially our undocumented residents, are very concerned.
Well, there you go. He has undocumented residents. He says public safety is his second priority, Congressman. Okay, safety is number 2. He's proposed using community-led alternatives to handle some of the duties currently held by the police, Congressman. How much farther left can the Democrats go? What's the impact here as we all await what's going on in New York as well with Democrat socialist Zohran Mamdani repeatedly saying he wanted to defund the police?
Yeah, let's be honest. Safety is not number 2 with Omar. It's last. When you say you want some community organizer to answer the phone instead of a cop when you call 911 because somebody's breaking into your house, you're saying you don't care about the safety of your own people that you want to represent. And that's going to be a choice the people there have to make. But that's the direction of the Democrat Party. He, Madmani, they are the new face of the Democrat Party. They have to admit it. You know, the press in D.C. says there is no leader in the Democrat Party. There is. It's socialists like Madmani and this guy. You know, the Bernie Sanders AOC wing of the party has taken it over. You know, you want to find a blue dog in D.C., you're better off finding a spotted owl. They don't exist because the socialists have taken over their party. And people across America, I don't think they recognize, if you're in middle America, you can't imagine, like, how could socialism truly take over? It must be just some meme. It's not. It's where the Democrat Party is. We have to deal with it in D.C. because that's the core of their party there. It's what's taken over their big cities.
That's
why
incredible.
they're a failure.
So who's driving it? Is it AOC driving it? Bernie Sanders is driving this?
Yeah, it's Bernie started it, and then others picked up on it,
Okay.
and now it's taken off like a cancer. And you know they've got to confront it. They won't. We're going to at least focus on getting the country on track, Maria, for working families.
All right, Congressman, we'll be watching your work certainly. Steve Scalise, great to see you, sir. Thank you.
Great being with you. Thanks.